with another one.
Today's video is going to be on removing and replacing garage door tensioner springs. As you can see on the left, the tensioner spring is broken in half. The one on the right is fully functional. So what we're going to do is remove both tensioner springs and replace them with new ones. So there are 3 things you need to do before purchasing your tension springs. Number 1, measure the length of the door. Number 2, measure the height of the door. And number 3, weigh the door. To weigh the door, just use a normal bathroom scale. Just remember to unwind the torsion springs before you weigh the door. Depending on how much the door weighs, depends on what type of tension spring you need. As you can see on this chart, most torsion springs are color coded. The color is the approximate door weight. So basically, the color is a visual for the door's weight. It also helps to know the gauge of the wire of the torsion spring. My torsion spring was a brown colored torsion spring. So the wire gauge was 0.234, and it was actually printed in white on the torsion spring. Okay, before I start, I have 3 safety tips. Number 1, remove the power to the motor. Second, disengage the opener. Third, use a pair of vice grips in the track to prevent the rollers from moving. This door has 2 springs. The one on the right is not broken, so always unwind the one that's not broken first. Take the 2-inch winding bar, place it into the winding cone all the way. Then take your 7/16 socket and loosen the set screws. As soon as you release the set screws, you will feel all the tension from the torsion spring. Please grasp the winding bar tightly. Now unwind the torsion spring. Quarter turns. With both torsion springs unwound, loosen the stationary cones from the center bracket. You're going to use a 14mm wrench on both sides. Or you can just use a cordless drive with a 14mm socket. Also remove the set screws on the broken torsion spring. Use a 7/16 socket. Loosen the 7/16 set screws from the cable drum. Remove the cable from the cable drum. Loosen the right side cable drum set screws also using the same 7/16 socket. After releasing the set screws, remove the cable from the cable drum. So what I'm doing here is moving the torsion spring and the cable drum to create room to remove the bar from the bracket. Here is where I remove the bar from the bracket to remove the cable drum and the torsion spring. You're going to repeat that process on the opposite side also. Remove the cable drum and the torsion spring. These are the two new torsion springs. Notice that the torsion springs are labeled. This one right here says right, and this one right here says left. Now the left one goes on the right side of the garage, okay? And then the right one goes on the left side of the garage. You have to make sure that you put the springs on the right side of the garage door. Now that we have the new torsion springs, we're going to start to reassemble everything. We're going to slide the left torsion spring on the right side of the bar. After that, we're going to install the cable drum and we're going to slide the pole back into the bracket. Now we're going to get the right torsion spring and we're going to slide it on the left side of the bar. After that, we're going to install the cable drum and we're going to slide the pole back into the bracket. Now we're going to slide both of the springs to the center bracket, just like I'm doing here. Make sure that the bar is evenly distributed on each end. In other words, on each end of the bar, make sure that it's the same amount of bars sticking out on the ends. Once you have both stationary cones to the center bracket, you're going to take the two bolts and slide them through. Then put the nuts on the bolts. After you secure the nuts to the bolts, you're going to tighten them down. Now on the left side, slide the cable drum until it butts up against the bracket. Take the cable and secure it to the cable drum. After the cable is secured, while spinning the cable drum Align the cable in the grooves until the cable is tight. While holding the cable drum, making sure that the cable is tight, secure the cable drum to the pole by tightening the set screws. Continue holding the cable drum, still making sure that the cable is tight. Get a pair of vice grips and lock them to the pole, but make sure that the vice grips are butted up against the wall so that the pole does not spin and the cable stays tight. You're going to do the exact same thing on the right side. Slide the cable drum until it butts up against the bracket. Take the cable and secure it to the cable drum. After the cable is secured, while spinning the cable drum, align the cable in the grooves until the cable is tight. While holding the cable drum, making sure that the cable is tight, secure the cable drum to the pole by tightening the set screws. Alright, so now let's tighten your newly installed garage door springs. Number 1 rule: tighten the garage door tension springs 4/4 turns for every foot of door height, plus an extra 2 turns. So for a 7-foot tall door, you should wind each torsion spring 28 times plus 2 for a total of 30 quarter turns. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn the torsion spring 4 quarter turns by hand. After that, you're going to get the winding bar to turn it the additional 26 quarter turns. After the last turn, insert the winding bar and allow the winding bar to rest on the garage header at the top. Now let's tighten the set screws. Okay, so now you're going to remove the winding bar from resting on the garage door header. Now repeat the same process on the left side. Turn the torsion spring 4 quarter turns by hand. After that, use the winding bar to turn the torsion spring the additional 26 times. Let the winding bar rest on the garage door header and tighten the set screws. After that, remove the winding bar. Now we're all done replacing the torsion springs. Go ahead and remove the winding bar. Remove all safety equipment, the vice grips from the pole and the vice grips from the roller guide. Make sure you plug the power back in for the motor. Now let's test the garage door to see if it's working properly.